Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. You should all see the first quiz. Can you already see it in their module?
Yes, we can say it.
Awesome, great. See, I think I have one of my students is sending me a text here. Okay. All right. Can I have hear from somebody from the graduate section? Do you see the quiz?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the undergrad folks? Do you see the quiz?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, so if you click on it, you should be able to get started. It's going to ask you for a password. You ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the password. If you do have a question, please make sure you can write it on the chat. I'll be able to answer the question so that everybody can see the answer. If you do have a particular question, you can always send me a private chat. It is a 30-minute time, and you can it's open book, so you can take a look at any slides, any material. Access code should be QWE. Did that work?
Yes. It did.
Okay. Excellent. All right, good luck, everyone. The code is QWE. I removed the code, so you should be able to start the quiz without the code.
Professor,
Sure.
can we like skip questions and then go back to them? Do you
You
know
can.
that?
I believe so. There's a list of the questions on the right-hand side. You can jump around. You just
All
can't
right,
see them all.
thanks.
You just can't see them all at once.
Got it. Thank you.
The tooltip is when somebody's asking for a question says, what does it mean for tooltip? What it means is that when you hover over something, it pops up a tip explaining what it is that you're expected to type, for instance, in a form. Somebody's asking me about labels and input. I cannot answer that because then I would be answering the question. Yes, you can reference your notes and the lectures. For the question that says, what does HTML stand for? It does say to separate compound words. So each letter H, T, M, and L should be spelled out in each one of the boxes. David, you are on the correct path. We did talk about the proper use of tables for what you should be using tables and what you should not be using tables. And so use what we discussed in class, the proper use of tables. There's a question on saying, what is a tooltip? A tooltip is when there is a hint that pops up when you hover over something. For instance, if you hover over an input field, you have a small rectangle that pops up giving you a hint on what it is that we're asking you to type in there. Yes, it is an open book. There's a question on whether you can use height and width interchangeably. No. I believe the question does tell you what the height should be. Maybe not. I might have left that out. All right, then I'll give you that. Let me just see. Just a second. So 300 is the width. For the scalar vector question, the 300 is the width. There's a question on scalable vector graphics for the graduate students. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, Brian, there's a question about for the students in a graduate course that I forgot to put the about the width and the height, and I was just explaining that the 300 in the scalable vector graphics question, the 300 is the width, and the 100 is the height. Zachary is asking what is a tooltip? Again, tooltip is a small hint that pops up when you hover over something. Okay, I'm putting it in the chat.
Hello, Professor.
Yes.
For question 7, are we supposed to write the exact value of this date, November 22, 2012? Or are we supposed to?
No, exactly that date, but it has to have a specific format.
Yeah, sure. This is what I was asking. Thanks.
So we don't have to put that exact date? Sorry, I just want to make sure.
No, it has to be that exact date, but it has to be in the correct format.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yep.
Professor,
Yes.
I have a question regarding question number 1. I'm just want to make sure that I'm not reading it something else. It refers to that label and the input, both elements should have same ID, right? what the question states.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
For the HTML, so for the what is HTML question and the HTTP question, are we just separating for each acronym?
Yeah, so there are, if there's 4 letters and there are 4 blanks, then each letter explain what it means in each blank.
Does the casing matter or no?
No.
Thank you.
Hello, Professor.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the question 2, the best practice way to achieve the layout is table. So do we just have to consider what we learned during the HTML class, or can we consider what we learned in yesterday's class as well, that is CSS?
Right.
Because
So we learned it's the same thing that we learned in HTML and the same thing we learned in CSS. There's no conflict. We said the same thing there, that tables should be used in a specific way and should not be used for certain things.
okay, so we can consider that example as well, right, in this? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we can consider that example as well, right?
Exactly.
Yesterday what we learned. Okay, thank you.
Again, the quiz is open book.
Professor, on question 8, it says that the single option should display that text. Should we be ensuring that that text is the one that's displayed? For example, if there was another value to be added later on, we would still want it to say tenured faculty.
Which question was this? The options,
Number
right?
8, the select option. Yeah, there's just a way that you can ensure that one is always shown. So I just want to make sure if I need to.
Well, the thing is that
account for
there's
that.
only one, so it's going to
Okay.
be shown anyway. So not
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay, so that kind of answers my question. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Professor.
Yes.
So I actually was able to join the class pretty late, and I was able to answer most of the questions. However, there are a few that, I'm not really, I haven't gotten into covering.
Yeah, we can talk this offline or after the quiz, not during the exam.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes, they're still taking the quiz.
Sure. Okay, sounds good.
Professor, 300 is the width, right, for the circle?
I'm sorry, say again?
For the circle, 300 is the width, right?
Yes.
Hello, Professor. I have one doubt.
Sure.
In question number 4, does the question mean that we should make the input fields small, or does it mean that we should eliminate the extra redundant space or like padding around them?
Question 4. Just a second. Is it good practice to make the area of the HTML elements such as input fields and buttons as small as possible to economize on screen space, especially on small screens of mobile devices? Okay, what's the question?
So does it mean that we have to make these input fields and buttons small, or does it mean we should eliminate the redundant padding or the area around the button?
No, the question is it a good practice to make it as small as possible, or is it a good practice maybe to make it as big as possible? Should we, especially if it's a small screen like a phone, is it a good practice that, I'm going to try and put as much as I can in a screen, so I have to make things smaller? Is that a good practice? Or maybe not?
Got it, Professor. Thank you.
Hi, Professor. Can I have a question about question 1?
Okay.
So I'm not really sure, like, do you mean to refer a label to an input element? You set the label ID to be the input ID, or do you mean like setting the value of the
No, ID, there's an attribute. All elements have an ID attribute.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a label refer to an input field, do you do that by making the two IDs the same value?
Oh, so you mean like if we make the ID of the label and the input element the same, right?
Yes. Are
Okay,
they now referring to each other? That's the question.
All right, gotcha. Thank you so much.
Or is now the label referring to the input field?
I see. Thank you.
Professor?
Yes.
So after I submit the quiz and saw the score, so there's nothing else I should do for this quiz, right?
Yeah, no. The answers will be shown a little later.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Professor.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a doubt. In question number 13, it says that the border color should be yellow for the circle. Do we need to specify the width of the stroke as well? Because I don't see the integer in the input fields.
Well, it says well, no, it does say the color of the border.
So we don't need to specify any width of that color of the border?
If it doesn't, but they're asking for the color. They're not asking how wide or the width of the color, but they are asking the color.
But if we don't specify any width, will the border appear?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Professor.
Hi.
Oh, I think you're muted.
No, I'm not muted.
Oh, sorry.
No, he's good.
What's up?
Oh, it was me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have the same question about for the small screen. So decreasing the element. This is just with the HTML element, right? Like nothing with the related to CSS at all.
Right. No.
Okay. It's just taking into consideration HTML element. Okay.
Yeah, what's a good practice?
Okay.
how are we doing? Let's see.
Professor?
Yes.
So for third question, where HTML radio buttons can be made mutually exclusive by making their name attributes the same value. So is the question referring to whether the radio buttons of same set should have the same value, or the radio buttons of mutually exclusive set should have the same value?
I don't think it says anything about the value. They're just saying that if they are made mutually exclusive, meaning that if you select one, it will unselect the other.
Got it. Like I was just asking since, okay, got it. No.
Yeah, I don't believe it asks anything about the value of the radio button.
Yeah, I mean, my doubt was like, let's say we have two sets of radio buttons. So are we referring to those two sets separately or in one particular sets of radio button? So I got it now, no issues.
Yep. All right, let's see. I think most everybody's done. Let me just check. Okay. Check the other section. Let me see. It looks like most everybody's done. Okay, just maybe just a couple more minutes. All right, let's see. Looks like most everybody's done. about 30 more seconds. All right. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, just sorry if there was a little bit of confusion as we had been. I think we had made several announcement that at the beginning of every Thursday or almost every week we're going to be having a quiz. Not every week, but almost. And usually the topics are always going to be the materials for the previous week. So for instance, this week we're covering CSS styling sheets, cascading styling sheet, and so next week the quiz, you should expect the quiz to be on the material that we're covering this week, so on CSS. Okay, and so we'll try to make it at the beginning of Thursday. It looks like most everybody was able to make it today. So there's a few students that weren't able to make it, so we'll deal with that with those folks. Perhaps we'll have them take it tomorrow. Maybe change a couple of questions. So as I know that some folks are taking other courses, so we'll help them out with that. And well, yeah, yeah, quizzes are cumulative, so typically the questions will be on the material for the previous week, although it will assume that you know the material up to that point, right? So there might be code that is there that is focusing on a new topic, CSS, React, whatnot, but if you don't understand the material before, then definitely you'll have a harder time being able to answer those kind of questions. So in that sense, they're cumulative. But we won't specifically make a question on quiz number 8. We're not going to make you a direct question about CSS or HTML, even though you need to understand those concepts to be able to answer whatever questions that we ask later on. So in that sense, they are cumulative, but we're not going to specifically ask about those topics. Okay, so let's see. Let's take a look at the syllabus just to make sure we know where we are. Right, so like today, right? As the calendar says, we were going to have our first quiz, and I did put out a poll earlier this morning to see if there was a better time where most folks would be available, synchronous, to take the quiz at the same time, and it looked at pretty strong that Thursdays at 7 p.m. most folks can be here. Again, there's a small set of students that can't be here. They have a conflict with other courses, and so we'll deal with them, give them a chance to do it later with the TAs and whatnot. So yeah, so next week there will be quiz number 2, and perhaps not sure if we'll be able to have a quiz here. Quiz number 3, probably not. We're gonna probably wait till a little later to week 6. We'll do a quiz on JavaScript. Okay. So yes, but next week you should expect a quiz on CSS, just like this one. Lots of multiple choice, fill in the blanks. We'll give you snippets of code that you need to complete so that you achieve a particular goal. Okay. All right, so let's finish up the material for today, for this week, which is CSS styling and laying out content using CSS. Let's see, question in the chat. They're a little longer. Yeah, Shuhan. Yeah, they're a little longer than 5 minutes.
You might have already said this, but are we going to be going over the answers?
Not today, since there are some students that are still haven't taken the quiz. I will make the quiz available later on, so everybody can look at them and see what the right answers are, and so you can check whether you thought you had given the right answer. Maybe you misspelled something, and so you'll be able to compare what the right answers are and what you gave the answers, but I can't allow that just yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let me share my screen. Yeah, so like the can you see my screen, everybody?
Yep, now we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I was saying, there's the syllabus, right? We are on the third week. We had our first quiz today, and next week, same time, we'll have a second quiz. And yes, some of them are 20 minutes, some of them are 30 minutes. You know, right about the same types of questions, same number of questions, and you know, snippets of code that you need to complete for a specific goal. And so the material for today was HTML. Next week will be CSS. The assignment number 3, I believe it's due tonight at midnight. And we did go over assignment number, sorry, that's assignment 2, due tonight. We did start going over assignment 3, which is about CSS, styling, whatnot. I like to continue and finish that up. And there's some other issues there that I'd like to discuss. But also I'd like to discuss the final project. As you know, there's this course has a requirement for a final project, and I'd like to discuss the requirements for today. And you know, you should start considering looking for folks to join. As I mentioned earlier, the if you prefer doing it alone, that's fine. But you can have up to a group up to 4 folks that collaborate in the same project. Okay, it's I think the requirements are a little bit too much for 1 person, and it may be not enough maybe for 4 persons, right? If everybody works. It is my experience that teams that have bigger, you know, larger teams seem to have challenges coordinating their efforts, right? And it has happened way too many times that at the end of the semester, there's at least one team that is complaining that there's either a team member who's complaining that, you know, the others didn't do anything, or so-and-so, you know, I couldn't get a hold of him, and he never came to the meetings. So that's a pattern that I've seen in larger teams. So unless you can guarantee that there won't be any drama at the end of the semester, you know, if you can't guarantee that, then, you know, I would strongly discourage you from, you know, having larger teams. Okay, you know, unless you have full trust in your teammates that they're going to help out and they're going to participate, you know, I would encourage you to have smaller teams. Okay, but nevertheless, right, I'm going to leave that up to you to decide. I think the ideal team size would be either a team of 2 or a team of 3. Those seem to work better together. The amount of work is the same regardless of the size of the team. We used to take into account the size of the team in the grading, and it became a nightmare, you know, because also you know, you are allowed to change teams halfway through the course. That's fine. You know, if you know, halfway the course or 3 ways through the course, throughout the course, you realize that, you know, you're not working well, and you want to split a 4-member team into 2, then you know, tracking all these things, and, you know, well, we started with these requirements and requirements went down, and it just made it a nightmare to grade, right? So what we decided is that this is the requirements regardless. These are the same requirements regardless of the team size. And, you know, just and we're suggesting that a 2 or 3 person team is the ideal. I think once you go beyond 3, you know, your returns start to you know, work against you. So anyway, these requirements that we're going to go over today are a minimum requirement. Okay. and they're very generic requirements that you have to abide by, right? I think these requirements are broad enough that you should take into account any possible thing that you might want to build. Hopefully 80 to 90% of the projects that you folks are going to be working on will fit within this framework, within this architecture, and you're fine. Okay. Now, if you whatever you're going to build, you decide, right? You decide what you're going to build, and you don't have to ask for permission whether this is okay or not. If your project fits within these requirements, that you're going to have this many pages and these types of users and this types of that and the other, right? If it fits within those requirements, then you're good to go, right? You don't have to ask for permission or my opinion or anybody's TA's opinion. Okay. Wait a minute. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Everybody can see my screen. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There's a question says, for login, register, are we allowed to use OAuth? Of course, yes, certainly. Oh, okay. So yeah, hopefully most of the teams will be able to implement what they want to implement within these requirements. Okay, again, it's up to you what you want to build. You don't necessarily have to use the same tools that we use throughout the course. So for instance, we are using React.js for the front end library. But if you prefer to use another library such as Angular or Vue.js, and you like to explore something else, that's totally fine. It's up to you. We're going to be covering for the database, we're going to be using MongoDB. But if you prefer to use a relational database, such as MySQL or Postgres or some other database that you might have used in a relational database course or anything else, then you're free to do that as well. Also, for the middle tier, we're going to be using Node.js for creating web services and as you know, interacting between the front end and the back end and the database. But if you prefer to use another a server in between, maybe you prefer to use Python or Java or C# or anything in the middle tier, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay. Also in the assignments, we walk you through using certain libraries like Bootstrap or Font Awesome or things like that, right? And we discourage you from using any other libraries in the assignments. But in the project, you're free to use any libraries that are out there, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's totally fine. Right? If you want to buy a library to make your project look really, really, professional and really, really spiffy, that's totally fine. Okay, so there's a lot of more leeway in the project, as long as you stay within the boundaries of what we're going to cover today. Okay. Now, if you feel that you want to do something really, really out there, that does not fit within the confines of these requirements, then we're willing to work with you. Right? If you have something really weird that is out there and some research that you want to do, or maybe at work you need to actually build something for real, or maybe you're working with a professor outside, and either as a research or some other project or whatever it is, right? And you want to build something for real, or maybe you want to start a company and you want to build something that you want to as an entrepreneur, that's totally fine. Just reach out to me and we'll find how we could modify the grading so that we can support you. Hopefully those will be the exceptions, right? That there'll be maybe, I don't know, 10%, maybe 15% of the projects will fall under that category. And obviously that's going to create a lot of more work for us, of how to grade and help you out if you run into trouble. As much as you can stay within the boundaries of what we're going to be talking about today, that will make it much easier for grading and whatnot. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the requirements. So here is the page requirements, right? Or instead of pages, maybe we could call them screens. You have to implement a website or web application, not a website, a web application, meaning something that's very dynamic, that has at least these 6 screens. Okay, one of the screens needs to be what we're going to be referring to as the home screen or the landing screen, right? The default page that you see whenever you come to your website. Okay. Now this the application needs to be aware on whether you are logged in or not. Okay, the application needs to be able to identify you. If the application can't identify you, then you are considered an anonymous user. I don't know who you are, right? So the screen must behave differently, whether they know who you are or you don't know who you are, right? Whether we are tracking the user or we're not tracking the user. Okay, so if you have identified yourself and we are tracking you, we're seeing all your progress and all your interactions, then we give you content that is logged in content, which is specific to you. It's tailored to you. Okay, if we don't know who you are, you haven't logged in, you haven't identified yourself, then we give you an anonymous content, right? Content for whoever is here. I don't know who you are. Okay. There's a question here. Do we have to work on the project starting this week, or is there a designated time for us to start this? You can start whenever you want, right? I would start as early as possible. I would get started now, right? But I'm not going to give you an exact time to get started. I do have a couple of weeks towards the end of the semester, right around Thanksgiving, a little bit after that. That is dedicated specifically for the project, but that is mostly for if you have a specific question about the project that that we might need to cover a couple other things that might be useful for your project, then I have some time dedicated for that. But it doesn't mean that you should wait to the end of the semester, and just work on it the last 2-3 weeks. This is a lot of work, right? This is a lot of work. I will get started as early as possible, right? Especially because there is a requirement that you use a third-party API. Okay, what we mean by that is that they are databases that are available to everybody, that you can send an HTTP request, right, and it will respond with data, right? You can send out queries, with parameters, and it responds for you to you with data, right, formatted either in XML or JSON or CSV or formatted in some way, right? And this is a lot of them are freely available. But to use them, you need to do some prototyping, make sure that indeed this data is available and that you know how to use it and that it's going to work for you and it's going to meet the requirements of the project, right? And so I would spend time looking for these data sets early on in the project and make sure that they're going to work for me. Okay. So yeah, I would get started right away, at least identifying what the data set is. Okay, so the home screen. Now all these screens are dynamic, right? The home screen, even if I don't know who you are, right? The content needs to be dynamic. And what that means is that it shouldn't be static content. It should be changed every time I go, right? It should be something different. Okay, so for instance, if it's a weather application, then well, weather changes over time, right? If I come at 2 o'clock, then it should show me that's nice and sunny. But if I come later on at night, then it might show me that it's cloudy or it's about to rain. So the content should be dynamic, right? Or if I go and you're creating a movie website, then it should show me what movies are trending, or who liked this movie and who hated that movie, and who what new comments somebody left for a particular movie. Okay, so whether it's anonymous or logged in, right, this homepage is dynamic. It should always, if I refresh the screen, right, it should show me different content. Also, it should be again, whether it's anonymous, it's generic. The content is generic, right? It's not specific to anyone in particular. But if I am logged in, there should be at least one thing that is specific to me. I should, for instance, it might say, "Oh, welcome back, Jose," right? And maybe show me, my calendar for today, or it should show me my weather for today, or my favorite places, or whatever, right? It should show me things that are specific to me as a logged in user. Make sense? All right, so that's the home screen. Right? So yes, we need to be able to support the fact that you're identifying yourself. Then that means that there needs to be a login screen, right? The login screen. The login screen needs to be, it needs to allow you to either create a brand new account, right? Or if you've already created an account, you should be able to log in with an account that you have created earlier. Let's see, there's a question on the chat. It says, if we created something in another course that we would like to include into this project, is that okay? Sure, as long as the complexity of the project stays the same. Okay, so yeah, so definitely if you've used perhaps maybe you've done something in gaming, or if you've done something in your database course, right? Then perhaps you can collaborate and do do a lot of the database work maybe in another course, or maybe you've done computer graphics, and maybe you can bring that over, and that could be some of the content that you display here. So certainly you might want to we can talk about that offline. Yeah, so as long as the amount of work for this course stays the same, then yes, you're welcome to collaborate with other courses and whatnot. Okay. Yeah, we need to keep it so the same for everybody. Okay. All right. So yeah, so login needs to allow me to create a new account or not, right? Or log in with an account that I already created. Okay. If I am logged in, then I should be able to, either from the home screen or from the login screen, I should be able to navigate to my personal profile, right? And notice here this /home and /login /profile /profile. See that? Okay. That means that these screens are rendered when the URL, this is the URL at the top. See that, this URL? Okay, notice that it ends with /edit. See that? Okay. Well, when there is a /profile, then you want to display the /profile. When it says /login, it should display /login. /home, it should display the home. Okay, so it's navigation, and it's implemented navigation of going from one page to the next. Okay, now the profile, there's two versions. Well, there's at least two versions of the profile. One of them is the private version, right? Meaning, if I am logged in and I'm coming to my profile, I should be able to see things in my profile that only I can see because it's my profile, right? Things that might be private to others. And then there is the public profile where everybody can visit, right? And maybe they found you by a search or whatnot, right? So in that case, I'll be able to show only the public parts and not the private parts, right? So I might show maybe my handle name, maybe my first name and last name, maybe a picture of myself. That's public information, and everybody should be able to see that, right? And but there should be something that is private that I'm not going to show everybody, that I would only show it if it's me logged in accessing my profile. Okay. such as maybe my email is there, my phone number is there, right? Things that I don't want people to see. Also, that is private would be things that would allow me to edit all this content, right? If I want to change my email or change my phone or change something, right? Only I can do that. Only I can update a new picture of my profile and things like that, right? So there's a private parts and there's a private or there's public parts that of the profile. Make sense? Right. And in any case, the way I get there is to /profile. Okay, excellent. Right. Also in the profile, there should be content that allows me to navigate to other parts of the website, right? That are somehow related to me, content that is related to me. Okay. Perhaps, you know, I wrote an article, right? Or I liked a movie, or I created a post, or I disliked a movie, or I rated a book, right? So somehow my profile is related to all these things that I touched. Okay, well, the profile should allow me to somehow navigate to all these things that I am now related to, right? I could be related to a book, a movie, right? A stock, an article, whatever, right? And so from the profile, I should be able to navigate to everything that is related to me, right? I might also be related to a person, right? That I am following 10 people, right? And also I might be very popular and I have 1,000 people that are following me, right? So those are related to me, right? So I should be able to navigate to the people that I like or that I'm following, and I also should be able to navigate to the people that are following me, that are somehow related to me. Make sense? Right? So the profile should allow me to navigate anywhere that is related to me. Okay. All right. So for instance, as I mentioned earlier, there's two versions of the profile. There's my profile and there's somebody else's profile. They should be rendered in the same screen, okay? But they're rendered differently and they're mapped to two different URLs, right? My profile doesn't have any identifier, right? Because it's mine, right? I logged in, I know my profile. But if I navigate to somebody else's profile, right, I will see the public version of their profile. I won't see their private information. Okay, so for instance, I might have the folks that I'm following. So if I click on that user, it navigates me to their profile, right? And it's mapped to /profile/ and some unique identifier, some UID. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go back here. If you go back to the home, right? In home, you should be able to navigate somehow to some kind of search screen. Okay, now this search screen is going to allow you to identify information, right? So from some kind of database, right? And this database should be some kind of remote database that doesn't belong to you. Okay, that has information that is public. Maybe it's IMDb, right? And it lists a whole bunch of movies and actors and TV shows, right? Maybe it's Barnes and Noble or Amazon or Best Buy, right? They all provide public APIs, right? That allow you to query, right? Based on what it is that you're searching, right? You can, for Barnes and Noble, you can ask about books that are trending, or you can give it a book ID, ISBN, and then it gives you all the information about a particular book. Okay, so this search here is meant to interact with that third-party database that you do not own. Okay, and each one is going to be different. So I would get started right away searching for these databases, right, so that I can interact with them. Okay. There are two types of searches that you need to implement. One of them is a generic search, right? A broad search, okay, that you can send queries to it, right? Maybe you want to search movies that on science fiction movies, okay, or science fiction books, and that's very broad, right? And then it comes, so the broad search from whatever database you're going to is going to come back with a an array or some kind of collection of objects that meet your criteria, right? It might say, well, here are all the books in science fiction, or here are all the movies in fantasy movies, okay? And your search screen should display some kind of summary list, right? Either you can lay it out as a grid, you can lay it out as a table, you can lay it out as a list of the results that comes back from the database. Okay, and now you should be so your API that you're going to be using, your third-party API, should allow you to make this broad search. It should also allow you to make a very narrow search, right? Where you can specify some kind of identifier or some kind of mechanism that allows you to pinpoint a specific object in the database, right? Maybe it's a specific movie, or it's a specific a book, right? Or it's a specific actor, or there's a specific stock, all right? Whatever it is that you're using, or maybe it's a specific electronic product, right, from Best Buy. Okay, and so once you provide this kind of unique identifier, notice the details, right, with the unique identifier, right? The query should come back from the remote API with detailed information about that one book, or that one movie, right, or one actor or stock or whatever it is, right? So you should display all those details in a dedicated screen called the detail screen, right? So this detail screen should display the details that come from the third-party API, but you should also not only maintain interact with this remote database, right, that you don't own. You need to implement a local database, right, that is going to augment or somehow expand on the features of that remote database, right? So for instance, if you want to, I searched the book Lord of the Rings, and I want to be able to, a feature in your application might be that I want to be able to comment, leave a rating, or maybe thumbs up, thumbs down about Lord of the Rings. So now you have the problem of, where do I store that information? Where do I remember? Where do I put some kind of record that so-and-so left a comment about that particular book or that particular movie? Where do you store that? Well, you need to implement a local database. Okay. Now for the local database, we're going to be using Mongo, right? And we'll show you all how to do that. Okay. So your MongoDB is kind of going to be like an extension of the remote database. So the actual book or movie lives in the remote database, doesn't live in your local database. But somehow you need to be able to say, hey, that book over there, right, that lives in that remote database with an ISBN of 1234, right? And this user over here, user 234, 345, right? They're somehow related, right? User 345 likes book 1234 over there, right? So you need to store that in a database. So you'll create a database, right, that will allow you to insert or create or maintain this auxiliary data, right, about the remote database, right? That so-and-so in your community like that book over there, right? So you'll maybe put, the ID of the user that is logged in, and the ID of the movie or book that you liked, right? And in some record, in some table, or some collection, so that you remember that you like these things. Make sense? Okay. Well, the detail screen is going to contain detailed information about the item that you clicked on, or the movie you clicked on from the search screen. Yes. And it's going to show the content from the remote database. Okay. Maybe the thumbnail and the poster for the movie, right? All that lives in the remote server. You don't own that image, right? Careful, don't download those images, right? You can get in serious trouble. Yeah, don't download any songs or pictures that you don't necessarily own or are not publicly available or don't have a copyright. I was going somewhere with this. Yeah, so you download half of the information back from the remote service, but some of the information is rendered in the details page is going to be content that is stored in your local database. For instance, if this is a movie and I left a comment, well, there might be other folks who left a comment, okay? And there might be 10 of us who left a comment on that book. Well, and all that information is stored in the local database, right? In our database. Who likes this movie? Who hates that book over there? Right? All that is stored in our database. So half of the information is coming from the remote server with thumbnails and the plot of the book or the plot of the movie and the actors and whatever, right? But then the other half is coming from, Alice, Bob, and Joey, right? Really like this movie, but Dan, Frank, and Dean didn't like it. Okay, so all that information is going to be stored in your local database and it's going to be displayed here, right below in the details. So this page is it's going to be kind of like a merge of content, right? Dynamic merge into data that lives elsewhere and data that you own. Okay. Okay, since this content was generated by folks that are logged into your system, right? That right? You can only create this content if you are logged in. Okay, so for instance, if you try to say, "Ooh, I like this movie," well, I need to know who you are, right? And notice that all this search here, right, and reviewing the details, none of that requires logging in or identifying yourself. Yes, we're not tracking you, right? But if you do want to leave a comment or otherwise, enter any type of information, right? We need to know who you are so that we can store it in the right place in our local database. Yes. So if I do try to do that, it's going to challenge me. It's going to spit me out to the login page, right, where it's forcing me to log in or register. Right, once I've registered, I can go back here, right, and as a fully registered person. Now, regardless of whether I am, so I only need to be registered so I can create content. I can create content, right? But I can consume content even if I'm not logged in. Right? So for instance, if I click on the user who liked the movie, right, on the handle, then it should allow me to navigate to the profile of that one person. Okay. So since it's not my profile, I'm visiting somebody else's profile, then it would not show me the private details, only the public information. Make sense? All right, so that in a nutshell, that is the absolute minimum for a web page, website. Oh, just a minute. I think a student is trying to reach me. Okay. And now we can negotiate a couple things, right? Where you might want to have an additional feature, and we can say, well, I want this other feature, right, that is not listed here. Is it okay if I swap it for some other feature, right? And I mean, that's fine. Then you have to come to us and check to see if it's okay. We if it's the same amount of work, we try to make some estimation on the effort. If it's the same amount of effort, then we'll most likely say yes. Right? If it's something that is substantially easier, then we might say no, or we might ask you to tweak it to make it a little bit harder. Or sometimes we'll ask you to tweak it and make it easier. It's often that students come to me with something that is so complex and ambitious that you're not going to be able to complete it within the allotted time, right, of a semester. So yeah, whether you think it's too big or too small, reach out to me and we can discuss. Okay, so everything I've said about the on the home screen is listed here. Notice that it has all these requirements: must be mapped to either root or context, must be the first page when you visit a website, must display generic content for an anonymous user, right? And so on and so forth. So everything I've said is listed here. And the rubric is literally this list, okay? The rubric, we have an item for every single one of these sentences, okay? And what the TA is going to do is that whenever they're going to grade you, they look at this and say, okay, is it mapped to / or home? Yes, check, give you the points. It must be the first, is it the first page? Yes, check. So it's going to go through this, right? And they're going to give you credit for it, okay? All right, can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
All right, let's see if there's
Yes.
a question here. All right, in local database, do we save all information from the remote server? E.g., I am saving comments of movies in local databases. In Lord of the Rings has no comments yet. Do I save something in local database saying no comments? Yeah. So the remote database, right? You don't own that database, and it'll be very unlikely that they will allow you to modify that information or store anything in their database. Yep. So anything that embellishes that data, like saying that these 3 people in your community like that or left a comment or things like that, obviously you're not going to be able to store that in the remote database, right? You're going to have to store it locally in your database, all right? Now, this begs the question, well, should I synchronize the data or somehow copy the data from the remote server and copy it over to my database, right? And in general, the question is no. The answer is no, right? Now you might want to store certain things in your local database only to improve performance, right? Really, the only thing you need to store is the identifier for whatever remote source or remote resource, right, you're referring to, whether it's a song or a movie or an actor or whatever it is, right? You might want to, the only really thing you need to store in your database is really that ID, and that's enough. But right, because with that ID, you can always go fetch the content remotely, right? You can always fetch the content. Now, this might be prohibitively expensive, right? Time consuming. If you have a list of movies that you like, it'd be very expensive that if you have only the ID of the movies that you like, that you're going to have to make 10 calls to the remote database with each one of those IDs to retrieve just the title of the movie, right? Because you only have the ID, right? And those IDs mean nothing to me. It'd be easier if I know what the title of the movie is. Then it means something to me, right? So those titles, it would be more efficient if you clone or you copy that small piece of information, or maybe just the title of the movie, you clone that and you copy that into your local database, but not much else, right? Maybe the ID, right, of the movie, maybe the title of the movie, maybe a thumbnail, maybe an image, maybe, because when you list your movies in your profile, you might list them as a grid, or you might list them as a list, and you might want to put a small little thumbnail, right? And it'd be very expensive to go fetch this from the remote server. You might as well copy the URL in your database so that you can quickly retrieve those images, right? And without having to go back to the server. So I'm going to leave that to your criteria, right? On how much you're going to copy over from the server into your local database. I would keep it as simple as possible, right? The more you copy from the remote database, the more you're going to have the risk of becoming stale, right? It might be that they make some changes, right? Rotten Tomatoes made some changes and there are more reviews now or whatever, right? Something changes. And now you're sitting with old data in your database, right? It's better to have other folks maintain this data. They own it. They quantify, they do the quality assurance, blah, blah, blah. So just have them do that, okay? All right, let's see a question in the chat. Yeah, thanks. No synchronized, maybe copy important format. Yes. Okay. All right. So
I have a question based off of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to clarify, when you say local database, like that could obviously just be something like something hosted on AWS in the cloud, right?
Yes, exactly. What I meant by local, meaning a database that you manage, right? That it's owned by you.
Right.
That,
I wanted to clarify, it wasn't
but
like some cache or something.
No. Right, exactly. It's an actual database that you have a login. You can log in, you can change, you can do whatever you want. You can destroy it, create a brand new one, insert data, remove data, update, everything. You have full control of that database, wherever it's hosted. Right, it could be hosted on AWS, Heroku, anywhere. But it's yours, as opposed to the Best Buy database. It's not yours, right? You just are using some API to interact with it. All right, yeah, great questions. Excellent, thank you. Then here are the profile requirements I just went through. Again, I'm not going to go at it again, right?
Professor?
But yes, go ahead.
So sorry to interrupt you.
No.
So with the local database, are we allowed to choose which database we want to
Yes.
use? Like, for example, can we use AWS over Heroku if we need to?
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
For the assignments, because we are grading and everybody's doing the same thing, we're all building a clone of Twitter. We needed to standardize that everybody's doing the same thing, the same Node.js, the same Mongo, the same React.js, and everybody's building the same thing. For the project, we are being very, very open-minded and flexible, right, and allow you to explore other things, right? If you just want to stick to what we did in class, React.js and Node.js and Mongo, absolutely, right? There's no need for you to go beyond that, and that would be totally fine, completely, for industry. Okay. Just what we're doing in class it goes a really long way in your resume. Right, so same thing, the requirements I mentioned earlier about search and search results page, about the details page that I mentioned earlier, login and register requirements that I already described that. Privacy policy requirements. So if you remember, this is not optional. I don't believe it's optional. For this semester, we're gonna have a guest speaker right before we leave for Thanksgiving, who's going to be discussing some ethical questions about privacy. Okay, and so as a requirement, you'll be asked to implement, I believe, is one page that describes what information are you keeping, or how are you tracking your users, what cookies are you using, and what are you doing with that information, and making sure that you're not deceiving anybody and that you're not selling that information to someone else, and that you're completely transparent with whatever you're doing with the information that you're using with your users that log in to your application. So yeah, we're going to have a guest speaker that it's a collaboration that we do with the college, that they're trying to promote good governance and good practices when it comes to privacy. So yeah, so you're going to be asked to create a page. I believe that's the requirement. If we use other languages, will the TAs be able to support us and help us? I believe so. Yes, I believe so. Styling requirements. So all your content needs to be responsive, meaning that it can be used obviously on a desktop, but it can also be used just on any phone or tablet, and just as fine, right? And it looks beautiful in either case, right? Either if you're using it as on a tablet, phone, or desktop, it needs to look spectacular at any resolution. Okay. CSS libraries. Or the libraries, feel free to use other libraries, but such as Bootstrap or Tailwind, or Material Design. or anyone that you might want to purchase, right? You can use that. White spacing, you will be graded on making sure that the content looks beautiful. It looks finished. It looks professional. One of the things that we're looking for is the appropriate use of white spaces, right? That you have nice paddings all around, that the text not flush with the parent content, that things are not overlapping each other, that things are not wrapping weird, right? As you make the screen smaller, right? You don't want content to start just maybe overlapping on top of each other because what's too big and whatnot. That text is correctly justified either left, center, or right. Right? If it's numbers, then usually it's justified to the right. If it's text, it's usually justified to the left. So we just want to make sure that you make good use of white spaces. Also, navigation. It has to be very clear anywhere I am in your screen of what can I touch and what to expect where I'm going. Right? I should never be asking myself, it looks like I'm in a dead end. Where do I go from here? There's nothing for me to click. There's nothing for me to go back. Right? It has to be very clear navigation. Also, make sure that there's a contrast, a good contrast and good color palette, right? That you're not showing text that is too dark on top of a background that is too dark and I can't read it, right? Or it's too light over something that's light as well. Make sure that there's good contrast. Make sure that that everything's labeled. That that if I look at a piece of content, that there's a heading or there's a label and it's clear what I'm reading. All right. Every piece of content needs to look finished, spectacular, right? I should be proud to show to my colleagues what my students are doing, right? And my hope is that you use this project as a portfolio that you can take to potential employers and say, here's what I'm doing, and you can very intelligently explain how it's built, how you use best practices, and that you use you can talk about the architecture and that it's multi-tiered and there's a front end, there's a back end, there's a middle tier, and you're using Ajax and JSON and relational databases or whatnot, and you are fully confident of showing off your project and acing that interview. Also, there should be a consistency and all throughout, right? If you are using a particular font or color palette, right? There should be consistency across, right? It's not that you're going to use one font in one screen, another font, another one, and some weird colors in one place and some other weird colors. So it needs to be nice and flow nicely. Some user requirements. All right, couple of architectural requirements, right? So no global variables, no global functions. So make sure that you use modules or classes or immediately invoked function expressions. We'll look at what those are later on. All the data must be dynamically loaded. Very little, if not any, static content. Make use of good architecture of using controllers, components, event handlers, and whatnot. Maintaining state, right? Make sure that ideally you maintain the state on the server side, right? Tied to a particular identifier when you log in, so that you're not maintaining any of that state locally on your client. That you use a web service clients. Make sure that you also follow a good file structure. You should feel very proud of how you're breaking up your application and showing off your code, that you're proud of the code that you wrote, and that you would feel very comfortable people giving your GitHub repository to employers and then looking through your code and says, wow, this code looks really nice. All right. All right, so user requirements. Okay, so the web applicant must provide user management functionality that allows users to register, log in, log out, and visit their profile. Okay, we did that, right? Whether you're logged in or not, there must be, okay, there must be at least 2 types of users or roles, right? And now here, I forgot to put in here, and that I meant to put is that this is going to be progressively harder for graduates. So for instance, instead of 2 users for undergraduates, the graduates will need to create 3 users. So we'll make it harder for the graduate folks. And what we mean by types of users is that these should be distinct users of the system, right? Types of users, not, one is logged in as Alice and one is logged in as Bob, but the roles should be different, right? As in, I log in as a student and you log in as a faculty, right? We are 2 people and we are playing different roles, right? There are things that I, as a student, I can't do because I am not a faculty, right? So there should be very well defined roles, and there should be things that one person can do that the other one cannot, right? There might be things that both of them can do. Okay, they both can register, they both can change their profile, students and faculty, but only a faculty can grade or create content or create slides and exams, right? Whereas a student, they can see the list of the sections that they're enrolled in, and they can take an exam, they can submit an assignment, right? So the use cases are explicitly different. Okay, so here's just a couple of examples. In a store application, there might be sellers and buyers, right? In a project management, there might be developers, quality assurance folks, right? Project managers, business analysts, right? So each one of these types of projects has 2 different users, right? All right, so beyond that, those 2 or 3 users, okay, let me put here 2 types of users and roles, 3 for graduate. Okay. So in addition to that, you have to support an anonymous user. Okay. And what we mean by anonymous user is that if this is the first time you come to my website, I don't know who you are, you haven't logged in, I should still provide you with certain things that you can do, even if I don't know who you are, right? So for instance, at the beginning, right, notice that an anonymous user can come into my home screen, right? They can go into my search screen and search for movies, Batman movies, right? Whatever, right? And so they showed here a list of all the Batman movies. Okay, even if they haven't logged in, they have not logged in, and maybe they select a specific Batman movie and they navigate to the details page and they're looking at, Batman Returns or whatever. Okay, and they haven't logged in yet, right? They haven't logged in. They can look at the pictures and the director and the actors and blah blah blah, right? And they can view all the comments that Alice likes the movie, Bob hates the movie, and if they click on Alice, right, they're going to navigate to Alice's profile, right? Even though the user is not logged in, right? They can view other people's profiles, right, or public profiles, right? The public portion of the profile. Okay. So all this time they have visited 4 different screens and they haven't logged in, right? So so you have to allow the anonymous user to be able to do certain things. Okay. Let's see. There's a question in the chat. Are we going to learn all these later? Oh, of course, definitely. Like different roles. Well, I mean, we're going to learn how to store data and make queries and identify, login and whatnot. Right? Yes, those kinds of things we are going to be learning about. Anonymous is just one type of use of that generic stuff that we're going to be learning. Are anonymous users included in 3 types of users? No, not for grads. For grads is 3 specific roles, right? And the anonymous user. Okay, let's go back where I was. User roles anonymous. Okay, so each role has to have specific things that they can do that no one else can do. Okay, so for instance, a faculty can create, can update, can delete an assignment. Okay, so they have CRUD, they can create, read, update, delete an assignment, whereas a student can only read the assignment. They can't update the assignment, they can't delete the assignment. So both of them can interact with an object, okay, or with a record, but the faculty can have some operations on that object and another user can have other operations on the same object. Okay. So that's what distinguishes one role versus another role. If both roles can do the same thing to the same object, then there is no difference between the roles, right? There has to be something that one can do that the other one cannot. Let's see, there's a question in the chat. May undergraduates team with graduates? Oh, I didn't think of that. I guess, sure. But then the undergraduate will have to match or right, the project will be graded as a graduate course, project. Okay. All right, web service requirements. You'll need to identify or create your own web services, meaning this is the communication that's going to happen between React.js and your Node.js, right? Or React.js or Java, right? You're going to be using a RESTful API of your own, right? So you're going to be doing communication, talking to remote services that you're going to retrieve data from wherever, but you're also going to implement a server that allows your client, right, talk to a browser to talk to you, right, that talks to the database. So you're going to be applying web services. A database requirements, you can use Mongoose, blah, 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 create Java database that maps, use Mongoose to create data model that interacts with MongoDB or JPA to create blah, 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 blah. Okay, you are free to use any database. Okay, data model requirements. Okay, so now for every piece of data that you're manipulating, right, that you're storing in a database, okay, you have to provide the following data model. Okay, so for each object or a record that you are maintaining, you have to be able to create the record. You need to be able to retrieve a single record. Maybe it's a movie, right? You have to be able to create a movie. You have to be able to retrieve a movie. You need to be able to retrieve a list of movies, right? All of them, or maybe retrieve movies that meet some criteria from your database, right? You should be able to maybe update the movie or maybe delete that record, right? So all these are your data model should allow you to do, right? And your user interface should provide mechanisms for invoking all those actions, right? There should maybe a delete button. There should be like a pencil so you can edit the record, right? Or there should be like a plus sign so that you can create a new record, right? Or things like that, right? Complexity, data complexity. Again, here's also where it's going to be different for graduates and undergraduates. Data models complexity. So at least two domains. So 3 domains for grad. At least 2 user models. Well, there's 3 users, right? For graduate students. Okay. So what we mean by a domain object, right, is that these are records that are maintaining data about non-humans. Okay, user models are records that are maintaining information about users. You know, my profile, your profile, right? My address, your phone, somebody's email. Right? So those are records and data models that are maintaining data for users. You're also going to be maintaining data for non-users. Okay, and those we refer to as domain objects. Okay, domain objects is pieces of data that is specific to the domain or the project that you chose, right? If you chose entertainment or movies, right, then a movie is a record that is specific to your domain, or a movie theater is also specific to your domain. A movie review is also specific to your domain, right? And those are all records that you're going to have to keep track in your data. Okay, but you choose what it is, right? If instead it's books, then a book is a domain object, right? A book review is another domain object, right? So those are things that are specific to the domain you choose. Also, at least one one-to-many relationship, okay? And two one-to-manys, two one-to-many relations for graduate students. Okay, and at least one many-to-many relationship to many-to-many for graduate students. Okay, so a one-to-many relationship means that for instance, I might have multiple emails or multiple phone numbers, right? Or multiple addresses. Okay, and so there or I have my family might have multiple cars. Okay, so there's for one of something, they are related to many of others. Okay, so you have to implement at least one of those for undergrads and at least two for graduate. And also at least one many-to-many. Many-to-many means that say I leave a comment on a post. Okay, so me as a user is leaving a comment on a post. So it's me, and I can leave many comments on one post, on another post, another post. So there's a one-to-many goes from the user to the post, and there's also a one-to-many from a post to the users. Right, so one post can be commented by many users. So we call that a many-to-many. Right, one user can comment on many posts, and one post can be commented by many users. That's a many-to-many. Or an actor can act in many movies, but then a movie can be you can have a lot of actors, right? So it's a many-to-many. So you have to have at least two of those. Well, one for undergrads and two for the graduates. So these are just example class diagrams that implement all these kinds of things. Here's just some other example class diagrams for different types of projects. And yeah, the requirement that you have to use an external web API to retrieve data, such as from IMDb, Google Maps, Yahoo, Weather Channel, Yumly, Best Buy, Amazon. I mean, there's just tons and tons and tons, right? If you can't find something of interest, you can always go to there's some repositories that kind of keep track of all the APIs that are out there. This is one of them, Programmable Web. If you go there, you can search, whatever topic interests you, right? I don't know, finance. Okay, and there it is. So it comes back with the unofficial Yahoo Finance API or ProPublica Campaign Finance API, Blossom Finance API. So these are all APIs that are RESTful. Perfect, they're REST. Okay, you can send a query, right, and they come back with data, right? And so you need to see how you're going to embed and interact with it for your project, for whatever topic you put here. You can search any topic you want. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Any questions? Let's see. Is there a question in the chat? Should we buy servers to deploy our project or Netlify? Yeah, Netlify is plenty. You don't need to have any more than that. I mean, if you want, maybe you can buy a domain, perhaps, so that you don't get that weird name for your project. But I mean, you don't have to. Yeah. Does Netlify even support backend code, or is it for static sites? You can have Node.js deployed on Netlify. Yeah, we'll show you that. Do we need to have these UML models as well for the project? I don't believe it's a requirement, no. Actually, there are. I think there are project-related assignments. Let me take a look at that. Actually, maybe, yeah, assignments. There's. I think I call them P1, P2, P3. Maybe not. Never mind. There are going to be project-related assignments that I ask you, by a certain date, right? At least you need to have something thought up of, right? That you already thought of what is that you're going to be building, right? And in there, I'm going to ask you, describe the project, so you at least think about what it is that you're doing. Okay, these project assignments, they're mostly so that make sure that you are at a particular place, right? At a particular threshold in your project, that you're not leaving everything till the end. All right, that's more or less what I had. Could you please explain more on relationships between domains? Okay, yeah. So our directors, actors, movies post different domains. So the name, I'm using the name domain object, and by domain I mean like a topic, right? Topic object, a particular type of data, right, or record that you would need to keep track of depending on whatever you're building, right? So if you are building a website that keeps track of movies, well, you're not going to have a table or collection about electrons or positrons or whatever, right? Or employees or whatever. You're going to have tables or collections that are about movies and movie theaters, right? And movie reviews and things like that, right? So all those objects I call domain objects. They're not humans, right? For that, you're going to have other records, right? And other tables and other collections that you're going to keep track of human data, right? So domains are data that is non-human data. I just make that distinction. Is there any way to see examples of a completed project that we can see how it looks like? Yeah, I'll go fetch some of these from last semesters, and I'll make a list. I'll make it available here in Canvas. Yeah, great idea. I will do that. I'm gonna stop sharing. If folks, I'm gonna hold office hours for the remainder of the evening. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Will we be graded on the efficiency of how we choose to write certain aspects? Well, we do have a minimum set of requirements on the architecture that has to be spread over multiple tiers, that we have web services, and you're gonna have controllers, and that you're using best practices also for the data model, things like that. So we are going to be looking for that kind of architecture. I'm not quite sure what you mean by efficiency. Algorithm, as in your is a order n or order n square algorithm. No, we're not gonna look at that. Yeah, we're gonna be looking at it from the point of view of good practices in a multi-tiered, multi-stack application. Do you have any YouTube videos of web applications that we can watch? Yeah, let me write that down. Make a list of past projects and videos. Yep, I'll take a look at that and share it. I happen to also be in your database. Can I just make one overarching project for both classes? Well, yes. Now, but it does. We do have to make sure that the amount of effort for this class stays the same, right? You know, just because we do have a database portion in this class, and so we want to make sure that it's a that we are make sure that we have the same effort across all the students, right? Even if you are in some other database. So if you want to add maybe to that data model a little bit more complex, so that you can merge it with something here, then that's fine. Test our code. Thank you. I'm not sure what test our code was about. Are we expected to implement caching to improve performance? No, but it'd be really, really cool if you do. So it's not related, but can I get some help with deploying to Netlify? Sure. Keep getting page error. Makes sense. Are we required to test our code? No. Yeah, we're not covering testing. Are we going to learn architecture? We are going to be discussing a lot about the architecture of multi-tiered applications, and just being a full stack engineer in general. Yes. What else? So we don't actually need to go back to check notes for OOD, right? We are assuming that you are following OOD. So if I throw up a UML class diagram and we talk about one-to-many, emitter-to-many, and object orientation in general, and inheritance, and we're assuming that you are fully familiar with all those topics. But no, we won't penalize you if you have an algorithm that is order n cubed. If it just times out and it's not working, then yeah, definitely you lose points. But we're not going to go in and say, oh, I see, yours is an exponential time algorithm. Anyone else? But this the class last I was able to get a chance for lessons recently. I have been trying to catch up. I score this not enough time to complete assignment too. So for those that might have joined late, and obviously you might be struggling a little bit on finishing up some of the assignments, you know, we definitely we're going to support you, and we are going to give you a couple more days. I have let all the TAs know that they should support you and help you out catching up. We are going to be lenient in the first couple of assignments, and giving you a chance to catch up. But you know, please let the TAs know. Send a private message to all instructors so that we can know who just joined, and we can keep an eye on you and help you out to catch up. But please, yeah, send a private message to instructors, not just me, all instructors, so that all the TAs are aware, and we can help you out. Yeah, so yeah, we're going to be a bit lenient on the first couple assignments of the folks that just joined. The TAs also are maintaining a spreadsheet where they have a list of all the students that they are responsible for, and you know, if you don't see your name on that spreadsheet, please reach out to the instructors. Again, not just me. Send it to all instructors. That's going to be a private message to all of us. You know, there's about 8 of us, and so that we all know, and we'll go and update your spreadsheet and let you know who to who you should go first for any questions that you might have. Although regardless of your TAS, you should you feel free to reach out to any TA that they can help you if you're stuck, if you have a technical question or need help with the assignment. Feel free to go to any TA office hours, right? Regardless who is you're assigned for grading. The spreadsheet, we do need to keep track of who is grading who, you know, just so that the TAs have a balanced number of students that they can grade. Not only that, but we're asking everybody to please invite that particular TA for grading. Invite them on GitHub to make them collaborators in GitHub so that they can view your code. And if you make them collaborators, they're going to be able to help you out better, right? If they can look at your code, they can clone down your code, they can run, compile, you know, fix your code, and then push back the solution directly to your repository if you make them collaborators. Grades on assignment 1. Sure.
Hi, Professor. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear.
I was my friend. Do we need to record that, or we can stop recording?
I'm sorry?
Do we need to record that, or we can...
Yeah, let me stop recording. I'll stop recording.
Thank you.